I want to show you something mind-blowing and totally fascinating that demonstrates further that we might all live in the same world, but on completely different planes. As a lot of you probably already know, some of the Democrats in the House Oversight Committee released 3 portions of emails having to do with Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. And I want to show you 3 different responses of those by Kyle Kulinski, who says that this is basically a smoking gun, Brian Tyler Cohen, who says this is a bombshell revelation, and then we're going to get to what Alex Jones says when he calls it a nothing burger. We're looking at the same exact thing. 3 different people in 3 completely, actually 2 different ways, because what Kyle Kulinski pretty much lines up with what Brian Tyler Cohen says. And we know that they are absolute enemies of Donald Trump just because of political party lines, not because of any moral issue or anything like that. So let's take a look at this. First, Kyle Kulinski.
Trump was caught red-handed with Jeffrey Epstein. We have some new emails that are coming out. I honestly think it's fair to call this a smoking gun. I think it's time to pound the gavel. Not only was Trump besties with Epstein, which we already knew, but there...
Guys, I am no friend of Donald Trump. And you know why I'm against him, because he's decidedly against Americans, red flag gun confiscation laws. I'm totally 100% Second Amendment. He's an enemy of the Second Amendment. He says, I like take the guns first, due process second, the biggest power and wealth transfer in the history of mankind, the big pharma industrial complex handout, subsidies, $40 billion to Argentina when we got hurting Americans that really need a little bit of help. But there's so many things. Best friends with Kissinger, didn't jail Hillary Clinton like he said he would and he should have. Disowning Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. The list is long. Being bailed out by the Rothschilds banking cartel back in the 1990s when he got upside down with Taj Mahal in Atlantic City. But you got to speak the truth about everyone because truth matters. Kyle Kulinski is calling this a smoking gun. We're going to get into the emails and exactly what they say in a second, but I don't call this a bombshell revelation. I don't call this a smoking gun. I don't call this, this is it. We got Trump, got him dead to rights, man.
There's undoubtedly literal video of Trump and the dirty, disgusting things he did with women that are out there somewhere. They're out there somewhere.
They got to be out there somewhere, and they might be. I think all these people are dirty and disgusting, but you can't make a claim against somebody. You can't make an assertion. You can't make an accusation unless you have the substantiation to back it.
Holy bejesus. This is just wow. The New York Times reports, breaking news, House Democrats released emails in which Jeffrey Epstein alleged that Donald Trump knew of the convicted sex offender's conduct and, quote, spent hours at my house with a victim. Let me repeat that.
Which literally means nothing. And the victim was Virginia Giuffre, who basically said, no, Donald Trump is not guilty of it. I never saw anything with Donald Trump.
Spent hours at my house with a victim.
If there's only one thing that put Kyle Kulinski's credibility into question, it would be this. This is a nothing burger. This doesn't say anything about Donald Trump. It doesn't implicate him, in my opinion, in any way. Spent hours with the victim could mean anything.
Guys, remember, we've talked about this. Guess whose house was bugged to the high heavens? Guess who had audio and video in every fucking room? It was Jeffrey Epstein. So if Trump spent hours with a victim at his house, that means there are pictures, there are videos, and there is audio of the disgusting, depraved things that he did.
That he did. Can you get yourself into some kind of legal trouble by saying he did something when you can't prove he actually did it? I don't have any doubt that he did it, but I'm not going to say that he did. I wouldn't be surprised if we found out that there was video because, again, all these people, Chucky Schumer, you've got Ted Cruz, you got the Democrats, the Republicans. I'm sure there's dirt on everybody. I'm sure they've done disgusting things in the dark because they're doing disgusting things all the time in the light. But to say that he did it and there's video out there when you have no evidence, it seems like you're going way out on a limb on this.
Ladies and gentlemen, beyond a smoking gun. This is a 5-alarm fire.
Beyond a smoking gun, says Kyle Kulinski. Prove it, Kyle. Prove it.
President is compromised. Our president is compromised. And by the way, who was
Name a president who's not compromised. Every one of them is in the back pocket of the Zio International Banking Cartel.
Epstein working for that he wanted dirt on these powerful people? He was working for Mossad. More on that in a little bit because we have new evidence on that front that came out. Shout out to Drop Site News. This is also a bombshell, but the mainstream media is not touching this part of it. But you have foreign intelligence, so Israeli intelligence, with literal sex tapes of Trump, potentially even with underage women. And gee, you wonder, hey, why is it that he's giving Israel literally everything they've ever wanted ever? That's
Yeah, I agree. Why is he giving Israel everything? Why isn't he disclosing the Epstein files? That definitely makes him look guilty as hell. But to actually say that he did it and that there are sex tapes and there are audio tapes with underage girls, wow.
kind of weird. That's kind of weird. Why do you let them steal the Golan Heights in the first term? Why do you move the embassy to Jerusalem? Why is he saying, go ahead, finish the genocide in Gaza?
Those are great questions. But to go beyond that and make assertions, you're on your own, man.
Why do you do a fake peace deal to give them cover? Why is he letting them, rampage through the West Bank and take that too? Well, now you know. Now you know. So here are some of the emails. Let's start with this one. So Michael Wolff is involved in a lot of these. Michael Wolff is the reporter who embedded himself with Epstein and got Epstein to trust him so that Epstein would basically give up all the dirt in the world on, what he's done and what Trump has done. And so a lot of people are saying that this is like damning of Michael Wolff. I don't think it is. I mean, obviously, he's basically like, a double agent or something. Like, he has to make Epstein trust him. So he became like buddy-buddy with Epstein. And that's how we know all the shit that we know about Trump and Epstein. So
that's the background. Now we're going to go to Brian Tyler Cohen, who says that this is a bombshell revelation. And he's actually going to read the emails without a whole bunch of commentary.
In a bombshell revelation, Donald Trump has been exposed in a new trove of damaging emails in the Epstein files. In the first email, Epstein writes to Ghislaine Maxwell, quote, "I want you to realize that dog that hasn't barked is Trump. Victim spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been mentioned. Police chief, etc. I'm 75% there." Maxwell responded, "I've been thinking about that." In another email, Epstein wrote,
"So far, in my opinion, no smoking gun, no bombshell revelation."
Victim Mar-a-Lago. Trump said he asked me to resign, never remember ever. Of course he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. And finally, in a third email, Michael Wolff said to Epstein, "I hear CNN is planning to
ask them to stop
Trump tonight about his relationship with you, either on air or in scrum afterwards." To which Epstein replied, "If we were able to craft an answer for him, what do you think it should be?" And Wolff responded, "I think you should let him hang himself. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or the house, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you. Or if it really looks like he could win, you could save him generating a debt." Of course, it is possible that when asked, he'll say Jeffrey is a great guy and has gotten a raw deal and is a victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in a Trump regime. So if you were wondering why Donald Trump was so hell-bent on burying his involvement with the Epstein files, if you were wondering why Trump, after being told by Pam Bondi, his attorney general, that he was in the files, dedicated FBI resources not to finding out the truth about who was involved in the Epstein sex trafficking ring, but rather to hiding his own involvement by putting 1,000 FBI agents on the job of flagging his presence in the files, this might be why.
So, in my opinion, the emails show social proximity and possibly awareness of Epstein's activities, but there's no evidence, in my opinion, of Trump's participation in any kind of abuse. Can you guys see any of that in these emails? I mean, Kyle Kulinski seems to think this is a smoking gun. Brian Tyler Cohen seems to think that this is a bombshell revelation, that this is the thing, this is pedal to the metal, this is going to put Trump away. Are any of you seeing that? Brian Tyler goes further to say this.
Wondering why Trump sent his little lapdog, Mike Johnson, pious Mike Johnson.
Virginia Giuffre made it very, very clear that she didn't think Trump was involved in any of this. And no new criminal allegations have arisen.
Out to prevent the House from being in session and engaging in what would ultimately become an 8-week paid vacation. This might be why. I mean, think about it. Why else do you think Trump was so eager to have the government stay out of session?
That is a good point. You have to admit, that is a good point. if you campaigned on releasing the Epstein files, and then when you win the presidency, you don't release the Epstein files, you do everything you can to bury the Epstein files, and then you call it all a Democrat hoax, it kind of makes you wonder what the hell's going on here. So in that sense, the release of these emails and, the 23,000 documents from which it came makes him look kind of bad. So I don't call it a smoking gun. There is damaging political innuendo, though. That can't be denied.
Why else do you think Trump would send Mike Johnson on the job of refusing to swear in Adelita Grijalva so that she wouldn't become the 218th vote on the discharge petition?
That is a good question. It's
because he knew exactly what was in those files. When Pam Bondi flagged his name to him, he didn't want this moment right here to occur. He would rather have kept the government permanently closed than revealed his ties to Jeffrey Epstein, which we've already found out anyway right now. I asked Adelita Grijalva about this exact point.
But that's just delaying the inevitable. So that on that side of it, it doesn't make sense to keep the government shut down so none of this can arise to the surface, because eventually the government's going to have to come back online and then all this stuff will be dealt with. So I don't see the benefit of having a 38-day pause.
Here's what she had to say.
And so why do you think that it's so important for Mike Johnson? Assuming that that's the reason. I don't want to jump to any conclusions, but I don't know what else it could possibly be that he's okay swearing people in during pro forma sessions if they're Republicans, swearing other people in if they would be the 217th vote for a discharge petition, which doesn't force a vote, but suddenly bristles at the notion of being able to swear in the 218th vote. So why do you think it is that Mike Johnson is so hell-bent on making sure that this doesn't come to the floor?
I think that he's had some pretty clear direction from the White House. So we don't want to see this, because if we remember when Trump was running for office, releasing the Epstein files was a really big deal. I mean, that was something he was going to do on day one.
Right.
And here,
that is true. And then all of a sudden he doesn't do it. And then he pisses off a lot of his constituents. Why would you do that?
here we are. And I think what happened is they got a little gander at what was really in the files and thought, maybe that's not a good idea. And if we notice, Speaker Johnson ended votes a week early, sent everyone home a week early to avoid a vote on the Epstein files. So that seems to be the common denominator. I didn't want to assume. I really didn't know him. But it has been fairly surprising how easily, with a straight face, he can just lie and manipulate facts. It's been really fascinating to watch.
So now we've heard what Democrat progressive propagandist shills Kyle Kulinski and Brian Tyler Cohen say about the 3 emails. Here's what Alex Jones is saying.
Well, exactly what I predicted in the last few years, and intensely the last year since Trump was president-elect. It's been a year now. Exactly as I predicted, the Democrats, with some Republicans, have begun to release select cherry-picked stuff out of what they call the Epstein files.
Now, cherry-picked is the term Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt used today.
And I know all of it up one side and down the other, predicted all of it, so did Roger Stone. It's exactly what we thought. Now, they're set in a few days to release all of them in Congress. They're a little behind blacking out, names and things, which they better do, of victims. But they released their best shot last night, and it's all over the news, and it is beyond a nothing burger.
I tend to agree with Alex Jones's outlook. It looks like Brian Tyler Cohen, Midas Touch, Kyle Kulinski, the Democrats are making a big thing out of nothing. It does seem like a nothing burger.
That said, I am not in the business of being an apologist for Donald Trump or covering up anything.
That is such BS. Alex Jones is totally an apologist for Donald Trump and covers up everything and weasels out of things and double speaks, and he's a hypocrite. He'll say one thing and then say the other.
I simply call balls and strikes. The way the Trump administration has handled the Epstein case has been an unmitigated disaster.
That's
if
true.
you wanted to create the biggest Streisand effect and look guilty, you couldn't do a better job.
That is true.
That said, I know this thing up one side and down the other. I'm going to meet all the experts.
I'm the professional. I'm the expert on this. Take my word for it. The buck stops here. Ain't nothing else to see, Alex Jones says.
I've got every damn angle of this thing. You have all the victims saying he never touched him. He's the guy that blew the whistle on Epstein on record. And I have all the videos, all the clips, the police, all the admissions, the lawyers, the women. I could do 4 hours with just the women. 99% of them saying they never saw Trump. 2 of them saw Trump at Mar-a-Lago. Trump got in his face, kicked him out of the club because he was recruiting the 15-year-old girls out of there. And then, in the upcoming emails, it's going to be him in Florida on 2 occasions visiting houses. It's already on record. They were fighting over houses they were buying. That's what Trump does. And that's when Epstein got pissed because Trump snuck behind him and, snatched up a house. That's what Trump does, is run around and look at construction sites and buildings. He's obsessed with it. Have you seen him at the White House and other places and going over to see the Federal Reserve remodel and running over to see this remodel? And he's obsessed with it. It's what he's been doing since he was 2 years old. It's like a bloodhound, that gets a scent, or a bird dog that points where the quail are at in the bushes. So it's like, he went and looked at 2 properties with him. Dun, dun, dun. And it's just wild. And the fact that they released this, and I'm already telling you what the other stuff's going to be, which they haven't even gotten to yet, I just know, shows there's nothing there. But then, my dear Watson, I asked the question, why in Hades, why in hell and tarnation has there been a big cover-up? Well, we know why. Because it's a bunch of big CEOs and a bunch of big heads of banks. They're mainly Democrats. But Ratcliffe has come to Trump, and I was told this when he was president-elect, from Roger and other people, that you're not going to get it because the CIA says it's a national security threat because they were working with the Mossad. And look, we already know all that. So Trump is not involved screwing the girls.
He does. See, he can't say that either. That we know of. There's no evidence that he's involved in that. See, he's just as bad as the Kyle Kalinskis and Brian Tyler Cohens, but he's on the other side of it. Kyle Kalinski's going, yeah, he absolutely did it. Alex Jones is going, he absolutely didn't do it. We don't know if he did or didn't. All we can do is judge him on what he's doing as far as policy, what he says. You can only judge him for what he says and what he does, not what you think he said and what you think he did, or what you don't think he said and what you don't think he did. You get truth fears no scrutiny. And if upon scrutiny you can't find any evidence to pin the guy on something, then you shouldn't say it. You shouldn't make the assertion.
And he was not involved in any cover-up ever, and was really the first to expose Epstein.
You can't say he wasn't involved in any cover-up ever. This is ridiculous.
That's why I ended up getting that jail sentence in Florida. And we knew this when I was vetting Trump 10 years ago, before I endorsed him 10.5 years ago. God, it's been that long.
You vetted him, and after vetting him and finding out that he was bailed out by Rothschilds Inc., you still supported him in 2016. You supported him in 2020. You supported him in 2024. You screwball.
I went to the books on the subject, the experts on it, read what Trump's enemies had said, read what the New York Times had said, and there was never anything there. So I'm like, okay, he's good. But that's how much due diligence I do, not just on that other subject, before I endorsed Trump, remember, early. And I knew how he was pro-America and his past and his dad. And
he was pro-America in his past, and all he ever was in his entire life was a Democrat, given to campaigns like Hillary Clinton. That's pro-America, Alex? You sure about that? The point of this video is we live in the same world, but we all live on completely different planes. And these guys, the Brian Tyler Cohens of the world, Kyle Kalinske, Alex Jones, people who are in politics and promoting political parasites, are on a completely different plane because they are actually begging for the violence of government. They're guys to come down upon us. And all we want to do is just be left alone. And truth fears no scrutiny. Truth is treason in the empire of lies. And truth is the first casualty in any war, including this information war. I appreciate you guys joining. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think these emails implicate Trump? Do you think they're, like Kyle Kalinske says, the smoking gun? Do you think they're like what Brian Tyler Cohen says, a bombshell revelation? Do you think what Alex Jones says, it's a nothing burger? Do you think Trump was involved? Would you be surprised if you found out that there were videos that came out where he was doing disgusting things to people who weren't of age? I wouldn't be surprised about any of that. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comments section below. If you like these videos and you want to support this channel, you can do it for free. Just like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification icon. Thanks for hanging out. I will see you in the next one.